for joining our COVID-19 Financial Oversight Committee meeting. Before we get started, we do have one housekeeping item, if you'll lead us in that, Alex.
Yeah, so just because, same thing we did last time, when we meet electronically, the board or commission or committee in this case has to vote that the proposed agenda constitutes essential business and that meeting electronically is necessary to protect the health, safety, and well-being of Tennesseans in light of the COVID-19 outbreak. So if someone just wants to adopt that motion, then we can go through it that way.
Vonda McDaniel.
I'll second it.
Okay, Mary Jo, just go ahead and conduct the roll call vote, please.
Okay, let's see. I think we have Vonda McDaniel.
Yes.
Andrea Sepulveda. Sean Henry.
Yes.
Sarah Finley.
Yes.
Edward Henley.
Yes.
Jennifer Gamble. All right, I see you, but you are on mute. So if I needed to hear that, Councilmember Gamble.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you.
That's all right.
I just joined. I didn't hear what we're voting on. Can you repeat what we're voting on?
Oh, the first motion that was for the electronic meeting.
Oh, okay. Yes.
And Junad Odebeko.
Yes.
And did I miss anybody who's on? Okay. All in favor? That was a yes. Okay. All right, Alex, are we ready to go?
Yes, you're good.
And then Councilmember Sepulveda, do you want to start us off with the resolution?
You all should have the resolution now. It adopted a lot of the same languages from our first one that we did, the 10 million. So a lot of the language is the same. Some of the key differences are that the software or the tracking will be on a different platform. But I think from one of the emails from the organization, they said that they had a couple of things in mind, that they were going to be adding locations that were, strategic and in underserved neighborhoods. It didn't sound like they were taking an administrative fee, but I just want to make sure that that is the case. Other than that, it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, and I can try to explain the administrative fee in my conversations with Nancy Kyle from Second Harvest. Their administrative fees are more in the forms of expenses to actually administer the funds. So, the cost to distribute the food includes, the food itself, but fuel and drivers and assembly. They will also be using some of the funds to increase the capacity of some of the underserved areas. So they may need to, purchase or lease equipment that would allow them to create additional shelf space, refrigeration, and some of the other needs for partners that exist but don't have the capacity right now to serve in some of these underserved areas. So again, looking at the hotspots of COVID, looking at partners that they already have in place, they may need to boost up the capacity of those partners. Therefore, some of those costs may be embedded, all with the intention of getting more food to be delivered to the Davidson County areas impacted by COVID.
Mary Jo, it's Jennifer Gamble. If I can ask a question, I remember during the Second Harvest presentation, she mentioned a 3% administrative fee, and I think that was pretty standard in that industry. Do we need to put in here that it does not go above 3%?
So the 3% that was discussed was really the contract with the state. So Second Harvest is administering the funds for the state, but they are actually not receiving those funds and distributing them in the form of partnership or foods. So what I had talked to Susan Kyle about was that, I'm sorry, Nancy Kyle, was that the typically with federal funding, there is just a de minimis indirect rate that is used that can be up to 10%. So if we want to put in, you know, not to exceed 3% or not to exceed an amount, we can. She was perfectly happy with whatever the committee decided.
Okay. Did she indicate what they would need? I mean, did she indicate that the 3% that's administrated through the state program would be enough?
Yes, that in you know, in the nonprofit world of that being overhead, that they could support, you know, whatever was provided. They could still administer the funds as directed in what I was just reading about the delivery of food and what the type of costs that maybe weren't going to be food themselves, you know, so that it wasn't that at the end of the day, 2.5 million of food would be delivered. It was really more about making sure that $2.5 million worth of expenses all related to delivery, setup, and some of the additional items that would be needed to expand capacity.
Okay.
And that the overhead piece of it was really de minimis to them.
I mean, would it make sense for us, rather than leaving it sort of unmentioned, because I suspect the question will come up, would it make sense to just express our desire to keep the administrative fees, you know, as minimal, you know, as possible, and maybe not to exceed a certain number or something like that? I mean, working with Second Harvest for something that is satisfactory to them, but I'm just trying to think of a way to cover the point in the resolution rather than just having it silent, because I do suspect that the council meeting that question will be raised.
Sure, and I think we could do it similarly in section 2, which is where we had it in for United Way. Do we want to go back to that verbiage? I'm going to bring that up. I think it was in section 2 where we put the 2.5, and I think it said something about administrative fee not to exceed 1.5. We could say not to exceed the 3%.
Yes, I think that would be good to do. Just to, like Sarah mentioned, I anticipate questions, and so that way it's right in the resolution.
Okay, I put some language in there to that effect. If you all end up voting on it, we can leave it there.
Great. Okay.
For those of you that serve on the council, I mean, I watched the council meeting when our prior resolution was passed, and there were a lot of different questions. Based on what you've heard, are there any other kind of things that you think might come up that we ought to kind of proactively address? There may not be, but I just wanted to ask, since I'm sure there's been a lot more discussion since we kind of started with our first resolution already.
It's Jennifer Gamble. Most of the questions, there was a question about the administrative fee, and it was in the resolution, so that was great. Most of the questions revolved around the timing of getting the services out, funding out. It was helpful that United Way was on the call because there were a lot of questions about their eligibility process and that kind of thing. So it would be helpful to have someone from Second Harvest on during the meeting to answer any questions like that. But like I said, most of the questions revolved around the timing of how soon we could get the relief out, and then eligibility questions.
Also, application process, which will be different this time around since they will be partnering with different organizations. So that we shouldn't have those type of questions this time around.
Okay. Is there anything, should we just take it by section and make sure there isn't anything? Alex has added administrative fee. And Alex, actually, you may want to even refer to it as the indirect allocation rate may not exceed 3%.
Okay.
And then moving to section 3, does anybody have any questions, comments? I think most of these sections are pretty straightforward. We go to section 4. Anybody have any questions on 5? And then section 6 is really where we get into, the details. And we've tried to track it as pretty close to the last resolution. So Second Harvest has a different tracking system, which is that link to feed. Talks about the use of the funds for Davidson County adversely affected by COVID-19. There won't be payments to individuals. And in fact, there won't be payments. There won't be like sub grants to other nonprofit partners. They will literally be providing the food or, as Nancy shared, refrigeration capabilities or operational support or shelving or, ways for them to expand, but they'll be using existing partners. So they don't need an application process for new partners, and they won't be doing financial grants to any of the partners. They will be providing the food itself. So 3 may not be necessary as there won't be applications, but it could also be kept in there in case there is a nonprofit that reaches out to them asking for help. They would have that flexibility. They can do this similar reporting every other week with I think this is where we want to take out disbursement though and say distribution of food.
Okay.
Because it won't be disbursement of funds.
Yes, I agree.
All right, distribution of food.
Yeah, and maybe and related support.
Yeah, resources or something to that effect.
Yep.
Related resources. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, and in 4A, I know that we're trying to get a sense of how much has been spent, but I mean, don't we also maybe want a report of who's been served, just in terms of just an overview of kind of what has been done so far? I mean, I think D may pick up that, but I just want to make sure that we sort of get an overview of what they've been doing.
Yeah, maybe, and that might either be an expansion of D, or should we just add something specific in A?
Yeah. I mean, to me, it really, whatever's easiest. It's just sort of a summary of distributions today, or something just very general. I'm not trying to tie them to anything other than just kind of keeping us generally informed about what progress they're making and who's being served.
Agreed, not just an accounting, but maybe a brief description. Is that kind of what we're thinking?
It sounds like what I'm hearing is that we have D that has demographics of beneficiaries of the funds, but we don't say that that's reported bi-weekly like we do for A and B. So I think, and don't let me put any words in your mouth, but I feel like what Sarah's saying is that we would like for that to be regularly updated versus kind of given to us at the end, right? We want that to be monitored and presented.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. Thank you. That's a better way of approaching it.
So do we want bi-weekly for number 4? Is that the way to resolve that? Or for D, rather?
But I think it was also more than just stats, but even just a real understanding maybe of which partners were being served. We're assisting in the distribution, and a general understanding of operationally, who they were partnering with and what the delivery was.
Yeah, I think the timeliness of the reporting is covered in the heading of 4 for all the subs, A, B, C, and D, because the biweekly. But I do think if you just add a weekly summary of distribution centers or affected areas,
Mhm.
so add an E. Does that actually occur automatically though, through their link to feed data tracking system? Might be easier for them to pull from that.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at number 4. It actually says biweekly reporting from Second Harvest to the committee is required.
Right.
Require information includes, and do we need to say biweekly in every ABC?
Agree.
Do we just need to say the funds are related in disbursement of these funds? You know, I don't know that we need to repeat biweekly every time.
Right.
I can remove that.
We need to be consistent. If you want to say biweekly in A, B, C, and D, then say biweekly, but don't do it on half and not the other, because that creates the confusion. So I think it's covered regardless, because the heading of 4 says biweekly.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I think you just take it out of the AB.
Yeah.
Okay, it's removed.
One thing is, as a general rule, this is going to happen with each resolution. We're going to have biweekly reporting, but we're going to have to start, allocating part of our meetings to getting these updates, because we're sort of committing that we're going to get these biweekly reports and do this monitoring. So that's going to end up, we're going to have everything sort of on a different schedule. So we're going to have a process for doing our part of the reporting. But because we'll have it for the first resolution and now for this one, and then for any subsequent ones as well.
Will do, and I'll coordinate with the different partners to make sure we get them kind of through similar time periods, and that we're looking at them on a regular basis in the meetings. Okay, so I think Alex, you added an E with a overall description of delivery partners, use of funds.
I mean, I'd like someone to propose some specific language for E. I'm ready for it though.
All right.
So the specific language as it relates to which section?
There's like a section E that we're proposing for general summary of what's been happening. So I'm just looking for some specific language if someone wants to propose it.
Oh. Okay, I thought we had it in D. It's different from the demographic reporting?
So I thought that we understood that we were trying to identify which partners they were working with in each one of the sectors of the city. And so that was what E was proposing to address. Is that right, Ed?
Don't
Okay.
they have a network of people that they work with regularly and they're not open applications for new ones, so that's already sort of set? Or you're just wanting someone to tell you who they're using?
Right. I think the idea was that in E, we were going to say we were going to request an overall understanding of the partners being used, the delivery, a general description of the use of funds in each of those biweekly periods.
That's correct.
Oh, so you're wanting to know how many dollars are going to partner A, partner B, partner C in that weekly, biweekly? Oh,
Or how much food?
But it won't be dollars.
Yeah, food
It will be
or
the
resources, yeah.
okay. So something like reporting of dispersed individual partners.
Can that be included in D? Can we say partner organizations and demographics of beneficiaries of any resources, food or resources Included but not limited to. Should we just add partners in that, D?
Or
that
That's
might
fine.
also, yeah, add like
or
a
A.
general description of services provided, partner organizations involved, and demographics of beneficiaries, and pick up with the rest of D. That kind of sort of a broad description, but it also specifically includes the partner organizations and the beneficiary demographics.
Right.
Okay, that's added.
Okay. Is it not more appropriate to put it in A? So like biweekly accounting, or we took biweekly out. So accounting of any disbursements of funds to any partner. I'm just trying to make it as clean as possible.
I think D does that. I think adding it with D and going with the additional language in D that we're looking for is just adding the partner organizations.
Gotcha.
But I do see what Councilmember Johnston is saying, though. In the counting of any disbursement of funds, are they actually giving us the name of the organization or just an accounting? Well, and it does say accounting, so this is just a number, not a number, not necessarily who it went to, just
Right. That's why
a number of food disbursements.
That's why I'm thinking it may be cleaner and more, just to put it in A, because we're going to get demographics regardless through, I'm assuming through the link to feed data tracking system. I would think that would have that in there. But when we're talking about disbursement of funds, that's where we're wanting to know who those funds are going to, as far as what those partner organizations are, right?
And do we need to take that out since we're not dispersing funds?
Right.
That's now food and related resources. We've removed funds. It's now distribution of food and related resources.
Oh, perfect. Yeah. So then and to add in specifically who, what those to whom those partner organizations are, or something.
Say including the partner organizations.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then section 7 is the same time frame that we've asked for the rent, mortgage, and utility assistance, that by November 15th, those funds be distributed, and that if there is anything that hasn't been distributed, that it be returned, so that we still had some time frame for the funds to be recommitted.
Yeah.
That is the November 15th date. And that is it. Alex, should we look at a fresh draft for
Yeah, let me send that to you right now, and you can send it out.
Okay. Okey-doke. All right, I just hit send on that. All right, has everybody received it?
Yes.
Yes, I have it.
Just going back up to the original heading of section 6, were we changing funds to resources or adding and/or resources? Or is that not necessary because we cover it down below?
Yeah, that should match the language below where we've changed it to food and resources or whatever we said. Food and related resources.
Right. Sorry, Alex.
No, that's all right. I'll change everything to food and related resources where it says funds.
Yeah.
Great, thank you.
I like it.
Yeah, I don't have any other comments. I think it reads well now.
Mhm.
All right. Alex, do I need to resend out the final though?
No, I think as long as everybody understands in section 6 where it says funds, it now says food and related resources. I think you could take a vote if someone wants to make a motion.
Okay.
Councilwoman Sepulveda.
Really quickly, is it, and I know this is nitpicky, sorry everyone, but where it the very first time that it says funds, administration of these funds, shouldn't that one remain funds? Because the very first time, are we
My
trying
section
to,
6.
yeah, it's on the second line. Oversee second harvest administration of these funds to determine how, and I think that's where it turns to how the food and it related resources. Or am I just, is that just a place for me to bring up? If so, I apologize. But to me, it just read as though the administration of these funds, because that's what we're awarding. I thought that one would remain funds.
I think that's a good point.
Yeah, I think one way we could fix that, I think, say when it says in that second line of section 6 to determine how the funds should be dispersed and allocated, we could say to determine how the funds should be dispersed and allocated to provide food and related resources or something like that, because it is ultimately a grant of money.
Yeah, in the same vein, in 6.2, I think the first time we say funds should actually still be funds as opposed to food and related resources.
Okay, I'm sorry. Can you say for 2 again? What was that?
Alex, I think that we say funds shall be used to source, store, assemble, and deliver food to Davidson County residents. I think we actually mean to say funds there as opposed to saying food, resources, etc.
Gotcha. Yeah. I left that one as funds. Okay.
All right. Great.
So I've changed now the first food and related resources back to funds, and we're leaving 6.2 as funds.
6.2 as funds, yes.
Can you send a final version? Because I'm
Yeah. Happy to. Hold on a second. Any other changes before I send this one? Okay, I'll send it
No.
Sounds like enough.
Yep. I think I'm good.
You say that now.
Everybody reserve their right for another version.
Yeah.
All right, just came through, Alex. Okay. Anybody see any changes before we call a vote?
Then
I'm good.
I will move I will move this resolution forward to Senate Council.
Seconded.
Second.
All right, everybody ready? I'll do a roll call. Those in favor say aye.
Nope, 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 nope.
Do a roll, right, Alex?
Yes, correct, roll.
Okay, all right. All right, Rhonda McDaniel,
Yes.
Councilmember Gamble,
Yes.
Sarah Finley,
Yes.
Councilmember Johnston,
Yes.
Edward Henley,
Yes.
and Sean Henry,
Aye.
and Nad Udebeko.
Aye.
Don't think I missed anyone.
I'm a yes.
Is that, am I counting right? Do we have 6? Is that correct, Alex? Or am I counting one of us?
I think you got everybody. So, and you have quorum, so we're good.
Okay. Motion to move to council passes. Thank you all for your work on the resolution. Is there anything we're missing for today then?
That's it.
Well, thank you all very much for your time on a Monday morning.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you,
all.
guys.
Thank you. Have a good week.
Have a good one. See you later this week.
Thursday.
See you Thursday.